Hello, and welcome to the Keep It 100 campaign kickoff. My name is Tiffany Flowers, and I am the campaign manager of the Frontline. Today, we launched the Keep It 100 campaign to respond to the urgency of the moment. As the Biden administration observes its 100th day in office, Black-led organizations are coming together to demand our elected leaders use their power to protect our democracy and our rights. Last fall, we voted in record numbers to remove the white supremacists in the White House. We voted for change because we need Black lives to matter. And we voted because we wanted real action, real investment in good paying jobs, quality education, and affordable housing so our communities can not just survive, but thrive. President Biden and elected representatives in Congress have taken unprecedented action to address the COVID crisis by stepping up efforts to get our country vaccinated and to establish stability in our politics. But with attacks on our right to vote, our right to protest, and our ability to simply live, the work is not over for the Biden administration. Even as we mourn Daunte Wright's murder in Minnesota, minutes from where George Floyd lost his life under the knee of a police officer, Republicans are working overtime to criminalize our right to protest, block measures to reshape policing, and enact modern-day poll taxes that threaten our vote and our jobs. This is Jim Crow 2.0. Tonight, we'll hear a series of intimate conversations between some phenomenal movement leaders about the right to vote, the right to protest, and ending police violence. Before we hear from our panelists, we're going to watch a short video. Thanks again for joining us. Wow, words cannot adequately express how honored and humbled I am to have a conversation with Dr. Bernice A. King, the youngest child of Martin Luther King Jr. and Coretta Scott King. We will focus on the historical legacy of the fight for voting rights that was waged by her parents and continues to be fought by freedom fighters today. This conversation will give us some historical context for the rest of tonight's conversation. But before we jump into it, let me share some more about Dr. Bernice A. King. Dr. King is a global thought leader, strategist, orator, peace advocate, and CEO of the Martin Luther King Jr. Center for Nonviolent Social Change, also known as the King Center, which was founded by her mother, the beloved Coretta Scott King. Through her work at the King Center, Dr. King educates youth and adults around the world on nonviolent principles and strategies modeled by her parents. Under her leadership, this work has reached over 500,000 people around the world. She is also the author of Hard Questions and Heart Answers. Dr. King, I really can't tell you what an honor this is for you to be here. Thank you on behalf of the Frontline and our parent organizations, the Rising Majority, the Working Families Party, the Movement for Black Lives, and United We Dream. We thank you from the bottom of our hearts for being here.
Thank you for inviting me and including me. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you. So I want to jump right into it. As we look at all of the activism happening around the globe, but particularly in our country today, I'm interested in hearing your perspective. If you could maybe compare the tactics of today's social justice movements with what civil rights activists used in your parents' time, particularly your father's time, in the earlier days of Selma, because we know your mother was a lifelong activist. So what was the same? What was different? And what do you feel like movement is doing right now?
Well, thank you for asking that question, because I think it's so important for us to not see ourselves as disconnected in the struggle for freedom and justice and equity in our world. Each generation is going to define its own way to approach facing injustice. But I think it's always important that we lean on those that have come before us to extract important learning lessons and guidance. So the first thing I want to say is, unfortunately, we are still facing this entrenched thing called white supremacy. We're still fighting for the dignity and respect of Black lives. It does not mean we have not seen progress, obviously. And one of the things that I can say that is wonderful about the contributions of my parents and those before, and those that were working with them, is that we now have the opportunity to work both inside and outside. During my parents' time, they were outside the room. They were not in Congress. They were not in the state houses. They were not in the city halls. They were not inside of corporate America. And even though there are not enough of us in the executive suites, there were none of us. And so we have the power now to link up from the streets to the suites to make our movement much more impactful. And we've seen that recently with the voting rights legislation, with the 72 corporate executives, Black corporate executives, who joined in this struggle to let their voices be heard, and who are working behind the scenes and with many corporate leaders to get them to use their power and influence in the legislation involving HR 1 and HR 4. But nonetheless, what I would say today is the movement has brought a lot of attention and focus on these injustices and inequities that have often been swept under a rug. In the absence of persistent activity that highlights and shines a light on injustice and inequity, we know that it goes unaddressed, that the narrative changes and people move on. So I applaud this generation for not letting up and for continuing that pressure and that stress point in our nation. That's what my father's movement did. It brought light. It brought the creative tension. So the direct action protest is so vital and so essential and is so connected. One of the things I think I would say distinguishing these movements is, obviously my father led with a guiding philosophy, the philosophy of nonviolence. So in this movement that my father led, you had to commit to nonviolence in order to be a part of it. It didn't mean that if you couldn't, you were not a part of it in some other form or fashion, but in order to be on that front line, it was essential. And why was that? It was essential because my father always kept everybody focused on the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal, whatever that injustice was, whatever that inequity was, whatever that wrongdoing was, it was to make sure that people didn't confuse it, make sure that people didn't change the story, the narrative, to something else. And so if people came and they could not commit to that nonviolent way, he said, hey, there are other ways in which you can contribute and still be a part of this whole force to transform our society. And so I think there's this guiding philosophy that may need to be considered today. What is it that we can all ascribe to in our approach? The other thing is, trying to find that focus, because there's a lot that we are faced with in the Black community. Unfortunately, no generation will ever undo what has been done through the centuries to Black and Brown Indigenous people in this country. It's just impossible. But there are substantial things that we can do in each generation. Police brutality is something that's an emergency that we have to deal with, but it's a protracted fight, and we have to be willing to know that, accept that, dig in, and focus on that. And until we get the reform that we need, hopefully something will happen soon with the George Floyd Act. And as it relates to voting rights, I just say this. My mother said something very critical that we need to wrap our brains around. Struggle is a never-ending process. Freedom is never really won. You earn it and win it in every generation. What does that mean? It means, folks, unfortunately, as much as we want to rest, we want to be able to say, can we get a break? We will not have a break. Now, you can take, we talked about it before, we can take pauses, because if not, we'll be insane. The fuel, the frustration, the anger, whatever will bubble over and cause us to do things that we probably wouldn't want to do. But struggle is a never ending process. And I think we lost ground between 68 and in the most recent time, because so many people felt like, why should we still be dealing with this? We have to keep dealing with these things, because whether we like it or not, evil is always going to be present and on hand, doing its work. Daddy said it best. He said, one of the tragedies of human history is that the children of darkness are often more zealous and determined than the children of light. In other words, they don't take a break. They don't take a break. So we have to be more zealous and more vigilant. In fact, I'm on a mission for us to disprove what he said, that no, the children of light are more vigilant. They are more mobilized. They are more organized. They have an ultimate goal in mind. And I think that's what I would say today. Get a hold of that ultimate goal. My father had this ultimate goal of the beloved community. He also understood in every campaign, this is what we're trying to do. And he controlled the narrative. Controlling the narrative means aligning our forces through social media and other means of communication to make sure that we're communicating consistent themes over and over again, and not get caught up in, the bantering back and forth, because we want people to clearly see and know and understand what the issues are and what we are seeking to do and what we're trying to win in this moment in time.
That's a word, but it's all true, Dr. King, and I thank you for that. I totally, I couldn't agree with you more about focusing on beloved community and how to get everybody into this movement. And it is a love movement, right? We do this for the love of our people. We do this because we know that there is possibility and there is light, far more light than there is darkness. So thank you for that. So staying in the vein of history, right? We know that history gets written in ways that it didn't occur. And I know earlier this week, it was your mom's birthday. And I saw you working really hard on social media in a way that you always do to make sure people are abundantly clear on what the legacy of not only your mother or your father was, but also other women of that time. And so knowing the work of your mom and Amelia Boynton and Claudette Colvin and all of these women whose names we don't know unless we're often scholars of the civil rights movement, who did that deep organizer work, who sacrificed, and who were ultimately erased and diminished. What can we be doing right now to lift up Black women's leadership and contributions to the movement to make sure that people like Ashley Woodard Henderson and people like Valencia Gruter don't get forgotten and left behind in this movement moment where they're working so hard to push?
I think we do what we're doing now. We're intentional about sharing the work that women are doing, highlighting them, talking about them, exposing the truth about women throughout history. You know, the problem is we've done so much work behind the scenes, and didn't get, you know, the recognition, and we weren't okay with it, but we didn't let it hinder our involvement in doing the work. Now we have to make sure that as we do the work, that people are also recognizing that, hey, women, as my mother said, if the soul of the nation is to be saved, we must become its soul. That women are here, women are in critical places of leadership, women are making a lot of decisions, women are bringing a lot of fervor and strategy to this movement. Women are at the helm of this movement. I mean, you think about Black Lives Matter, the banner of it, everything that started by 3 women. And that momentum has been continuing. And so it's going to be up to us to tell our stories, to educate, to create means and ways in writing and sharing and using every possible way to share about the roles of women and to not stop doing that. So it's an intentionality that has to take place, and especially with those of us who are women, because sometimes, you know, historically at least, we were harder on each other. You know, a lot of cat fighting, you know, and some of that's still going on, if we might be honest. There's still a little, you know, infighting and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, what we have to do is recognize we each bring our own unique contributions to this movement. Nothing is necessarily wrong, and no one is necessarily all right. We're all a part of the beautiful fabric of helping to create a more just, humane, equitable, and peaceful world. And so our job as women is to not get in the way of recognizing the work of other women. And so I salute all of the women who are doing work today, because we would not be where we are in this nation, and I dare say the world, without women doing what they have been doing. Or what we've been doing, should I say.
What we've absolutely been doing and continue to do. And I have, I'm going to close out with you, Dr. King. You know, our campaign, The Frontline, one of the Keep It 100 coalition partners, was born out of last summer's uprising in defense of Black lives. And The Frontline comprises a historic Black-led, multiracial alliance of the movement for Black lives, the Working Families Party, United We Dream, and the Rising Majority. We launched because our people flooded the streets demanding change. And since last August, as we talked about earlier, we've been organizing to protect the right to vote, to fight for racial justice, to elect and hold leaders who prioritize jobs, care, relief, and the Thrive agenda that, you know, we know our communities need. And even though we've worked nonstop since last summer, it's been an absolute honor and a privilege to lead this campaign, you know, and witness the magic that this grouping has created. It brightens my perspective on the future and keeps me incredibly hopeful because I get to work with a lot of young and developing leaders. So as we close, Dr. King, I'm curious, what keeps Dr. Bernice A. King hopeful in this very difficult time?
What keeps me hopeful, one, is the numerous hands on deck fighting for justice and equity, and especially the number of young people who have been, you know, on the front lines of this. You know, before this time period, I was very discouraged because as I spoke on college campuses around the nation, I've been speaking now for about 41 years. Young people were so indifferent and apathetic. Now there's such this fervor and energy around young people. It's all about social justice. It's all about movement. It's all about what can I do to make a difference. And so I'm just encouraged by that every day of my life. Secondly, you know, I'm encouraged by the amazing powerhouse organizing and strategizing that goes on with Black Voters Matter in particular. I have to call these out, and I'm calling everybody, but I just want to talk about Black Voters Matter and Fair Fight. I've never seen anything like that on the voting front. In our community, we've often tried to rush people to vote and register to vote, but we didn't spend a lot of time educating people on the power of the vote, the power of you as a citizen to engage in our democracy. And so that has just been just tremendous for me, and it's helped me to remain hopeful. And finally, my work through the King Center in educating and training people, and my father's philosophy and strategy of nonviolence, and our current Be Love campaign that I want to encourage people to come to our website and take the pledge and become a part of, because there are a number of people who have been impacted and are being transformed by this work that we're doing every day, and it keeps me inspired. And finally, and last but not least, honestly, it's my relationship with Jesus Christ through the Holy Spirit that keeps me hopeful, because I know in the end, as my father said, that the moral arc of the universe is long, but it bends towards justice, and that God himself is on the side of justice, and that in the end, justice is going to prevail.
You can't pretend as if you don't know what's going on in the world. It's everywhere you look.
They're putting different obstacles in our way to try to deter us from voting.
Seeing these anti-voting laws that are being passed, it just reinforces the power that we have.
Because our votes are powerful and we can affect change like that.
So by no means should we slow down. I think we should demand more of our elected officials.
It's kind of crazy that they're really going out their way to try to suppress our votes and suppress to the polls.
It's no different than poll taxes and literacy tests.
We're actually that impactful that they will roll out 300 bills in 40 states.
They are well aware of the strength that we have.
It shows how powerful we really are.
Go to stopjimcrow2.com to learn how you can participate in this fight. We need the freedom to vote so that we can have the freedom to live.
He said it all.
For the rest of tonight's event, we'll be talking about the need to defend democracy on three fronts: the right to vote, the right to protest, and ending police brutality. Renee Montgomery is a West Virginia native. During her 11-year professional basketball career, she was a two-time WNBA champion and was named an All-Star and 6th Woman of the Year. Renee retired in 2021 after sitting out the 2020 season to focus on social reform and justice. Renee is currently co-owner and vice president of the WNBA Atlanta Dream and serves as a sports analyst for NBA and ESPN.
What's up, everybody? I'm Renee Montgomery. When voters in Georgia delivered the Senate to Democrats, how did the GOP in Georgia respond? With a harsh new voter suppression law. And now, many states around the country are looking to follow in Georgia's footsteps. In response to our growing electoral power, Republicans have introduced over 300 bills in over 40 states to restrict the vote. This backlash could set us back 100 years in terms of voting rights. To counter this wave of voter suppression laws and to protect and expand our right to vote, we need Congress to act now. Expanding voter rights is foundational for Black liberation. Just imagine what we could win if our communities actually had an equal voice in our political system. Real democracy reform could be the key to unlocking a higher minimum wage, defunding the police, and investing in our communities. Affordable housing, high quality education, climate justice, healthcare for all, and so much more. All things our communities need and deserve to thrive truly. Now, I'd like to introduce Stacey Abrams, who will be joining Tiffany next to discuss the current state of the fight against Jim Crow 2.0. Stacey Abrams is the two-time New York Times best-selling author of Our Time Is Now and Lead from the Outside, an entrepreneur and a political leader. A tax attorney by training, she served 11 years in the Georgia House of Representatives, 7 as minority leader, and became the 2018 Democratic nominee for governor of Georgia, where she won more votes at the time than any other Democrat in the state's history. She launched multiple organizations devoted to voting rights, training, and hiring young people of color, and tackling social issues at the state, national, and international levels. She is the founder of the Fair Fight Action, Fair Count, and the Southern Economic Advancement Project. Stacey Abrams!
Thank you so much, Renee. Thank you, Tiffany, for leading this effort. I just want to come here today and talk about why voting matters so much. And I know we talk about democracy, we talk about casting a ballot. Dr. King very, I think, eloquently walked through why it's so important for us to be focused on the right to vote and education. But I want to go back to my reason. You see, I became involved in voting rights as a child. My parents would take us with them to volunteer. We would go to volunteer in soup kitchens and homeless shelters, but they also took us to juvenile justice facilities where young children were being incarcerated. They would take us to nursing homes. They would take us to jails. They wanted us to see what was happening, but they also wanted us to work our hands towards making it better. Now, we would point out to our parents that we were going to a soup kitchen, but the lights were cut off at home, or we were doing some volunteer effort and we didn't have running water. And my parents would remind us that having nothing was never an excuse for doing nothing. That was part of their education. But my parents also took us with them every time they went to vote. I'm the second of 6 children, so we looked like make way for ducklings as we trailed out of the voting booth. But my parents wanted us to see that as important as it was for us to do our part in community, nothing we built would be sustainable if we did not vote in better leaders, if we did not vote for the rights we demanded. They wanted us to understand that we protest in the streets, we protest at the ballot box, and they also taught us to protest in the halls of power. I fight for voting rights because I know that voting rights undergird everything we need, everything we desire, and everything we deserve. And as we head into the summer, we must pay attention not only to what they are trying to do to steal our votes from us, but what we must do to take our power back. You see, I grew up in Mississippi, I came of age in Georgia. I am committed to the South, but I know that voter suppression doesn't just live in the South. We've seen it rear its ugly head in Michigan and in Wisconsin and in Pennsylvania. We know that in Arizona, they are fighting hard to keep the right to vote real. And we have to remember that wherever we are, there will be those who attempt to silence our voices and steal our choices. I don't fight for voting rights because I just enjoy the act of casting a ballot. I fight for voting rights because I deserve the right to demand my future, and we do. We deserve to be able to elect leaders who see us and who will serve us. And we also have the right to remove those from office who refuse to do their job. But we can't do it alone. We have to do the work together, and we cannot let up. Because what they're hoping for is that they'll pass these bills in the spring, but by summertime we'll be silent. That voter suppression will just ease into one more bad memory of what happens to people in America. But we are going to be working hard every single day to keep the pressure on, to keep the attention on, because that's how we keep the progress going. We know progress is hard. We know it is slow. We know sometimes it is overwhelmed by regression. But what we will not allow is for suppression to take away our power. And we need your help. We need your help making sure that we continue to talk about the states that are trying to pass these bills, just like Florida did just yesterday. That we fight against those bills wherever they may be, because those bills are an attempt to silence us and to undermine our citizenship. And that should not stand. But we also have to hold others accountable. We have to talk to the corporations. Those corporations may seem like faraway issues, but those are civic leaders. They are either employers or the people we buy stuff from. And so we've got to keep pressure on our civic leaders, our business leaders, our community leaders. And here are 3 things we need them to do. 1, to keep talking about voter suppression and not allow this to become a partisan issue. I don't fight for Democrats to vote or to stop Republicans from voting. I fight for the right for Americans to vote, especially for Black voters, because Black voters have for too long been the target of voter suppression, although they have spread their wings wide to try to attack as many people as possible. But we know that if we stop talking about it, they win. So keep the pressure on and encourage every community that you touch to keep talking about voter suppression, keep denouncing these bills, because this isn't about partisanship. This is about citizenship. Number two, we've got to support the organizations doing the good work. We know here in Georgia, voter identification has become part of how they are trying to stop us from participating in absentee ballots. You see, they know that there are more than 200,000 Georgia voters who do not have the requisite ID. No one is arguing that you shouldn't have to prove who you are, but we are demanding that the proof be realistic and not designed for our failure. And so we're working with vote writers and other groups to ensure that we try to get as many people the IDs they need, because they're not going to outwit us and they're not going to outwork us. So one, we need to keep talking about it. Two, we need to continue working towards it. And three, we need to demand federal action on the For the People Act. Those voting rights provisions will transform this nation. Right now, the quality of your democracy depends on your geography. Your zip code determines whether you get to vote by mail, vote early, and sometimes whether you get to vote at all if you're a returning citizen. But the For the People Act will level the playing field and create a federalized standard so that our citizenship doesn't change, the quality of our citizenship doesn't change based on where we live, that we have a fundamental baseline of what it means to be an American voter: voting absentee, automatic registration, in-person early voting, no matter where you live, no matter who you plan to vote for. But in addition to stopping these terrible state bills by passing the For the People Act, we've got to block new bills from ever becoming law. And that requires the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act. John Lewis lived his life working towards making certain that the right to vote is real. And when the Supreme Court gutted the Voting Rights Act of 1965 with their decision in 2013, they didn't say the Voting Rights Act was over. They just said you had to fix it. I'm going to take them at their word, and we need to fight to make certain that every person is protected by the Voting Rights Act wherever voter suppression is real. For the People, the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act, together those two acts will change the future of democracy. But they require our interest, they require our intention, and they require our efforts. I am in this to win, because I believe that we deserve the future we can create. And that begins with the right to vote. And if we have that right and we make it real, we will get it done. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Leader Abrams. We can always count on you for a clear call to action. And so I love hearing you talk. You get that fire going in my belly. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Talk soon. Right now, we're going to move into a conversation about why we can't vote. And you're in for a treat, because we're joined by Latasha Brown, Lisa Borders, and Derek Johnson. If you just give me a minute to fill you in about this panel, I just want to tell you a little bit about who's about to join us. Latasha is an award-winning visionary, thought leader, institution builder, cultural activist, artist, singer, connector, icon. She's the co-founder of Black Voters Matter, Black Voters Matter Fund, and Black Voters Matter Capacity Building Institute. These initiatives are designed to boost Black voter registration and turnout, as well as increase power in marginalized, predominantly Black communities. Latasha is also founder of the Southern Black Girls and Women's Consortium, a $100 million 10-year initiative to invest in organizations that serve Black women and girls in the South. And Latasha, we are so happy you're here. President Derek Johnson is the president and CEO of NAACP, a title he's held since October of 2017. President Johnson formerly served as vice chairman of the NAACP National Board of Directors, as well as state president for the Mississippi State Conference NAACP. A longstanding member, organizer, and leader of the NAACP, President Johnson has helped guide the association through a period of re-envisioning and reinvigoration. Welcome, Prez. We're so happy to have you here tonight.
Good to be here.
Lisa Borders. Lisa is the host of Enlightened, a new weekly podcast featuring a diverse array of people from all walks of life, highlighting stories of inspiration and overcoming adversity. Ms. Borders has 3 decades of leadership delivering results across the private, public, and nonprofit sectors. She is the CEO of LMB Group, LLC, a management consultancy firm, and recently chaired the Borders Commission, a strategic task force chartered by the United States Olympic and Paralympic Committee. Borders was the inaugural president and CEO's Time's Up, and formerly the president of the WNBA, where she is credited with accelerating the league's growth and creating new ways for fans to engage. Thank you all for being here. What a lineup.
Great to be here, Tiffany. Thanks for having us.
Of course. I want to jump in with one question that I'm going to ask for everyone. So you were all instrumental in the record turnout of voters in 2020. What did you hear from the field from your engagement from Black voters? What are they looking for from our elected officials? I'll start with you, Latasha. What are our folks looking for?
You know, I think when we're talking about this election, I think it was a pivotal moment for this entire country, that we have to really recognize that how COVID-19 impacted us, that we were in this racially tense environment where we're seeing hyperpolarization of political parties. What Black people, the Black voters that we've been talking to on the ground, what they want is they want power. It's not just about participation. It is having the power to be able to operate in their agency to make those decisions around who governs them and actually what conditions they're governed. We want what everybody else wants. We want better schools for our children. We want quality education. We want quality health care. We want access to economic opportunity. We want a level playing field. And I think that when we're talking to voters, what they're saying is right now that as we've been talking to Black people, they've been saying that it's enough, that we have to do something around racial justice in this country. The killings must stop. We're tired and frustrated at day after day seeing videos of another Black man, unarmed Black man or woman being shot down as dogs. And so fundamentally what we want, initially, we want the killings and the murders and the discrimination against and attacks of our people to stop. But we also want a leadership that's going to be more reflective of the entire community, of an agenda that's actually going to lift up not just a few people in the community, but literally ultimately all of us, that working folks, when we're looking at Black women, 68% of Black women are wage workers. We need actually higher wages. We need to literally be able to have policy that's going to change the economic conditions in our community.
Yes, yes, plus, as they say on the Zoom. President Johnson, what are NAACP members and folks in the community telling your organizers and field teams and young people? What do our folks want to hear from their elected officials?
You know, the last 4 years under the administration demonstrated the urgency of more people in our community to be self-sufficient. They understood what was at stake, that our lives were at stake. The level of white supremacy that was coming from the White House, the boldness by which white supremacists would take to the street and actualize some of the rhetoric we had heard about for years. And as a result of that, you've seen record numbers of engagement across the board. You've seen record turnout. You've seen marches, demonstrations. And it's on top of what we witnessed with George Floyd, and on top of the economic crisis we found ourselves in as a community as a result of the health pandemic, where many of our workers were frontline workers and they were exposed at high percentages. And the reality now is for more communities to truly take ownership of their destiny. Being self-sufficient is really important. That the words of Ella Baker, strong people don't need strong leaders because they're strong. It is the role of organizations and individuals to continue to provide information so people in local communities can be stronger, to be self-sufficient. The game of politics is just that. It is about who gets taxed and who's not taxed, and what those tax dollars are used for, how those platforms are being manipulated to drive questions of fear and create more tribalism. For the Black community, we have to cut through that. White supremacist behavior, it doesn't have a political party or home. It is. It is up for the Black community to be more self-determined, taking control of local politics, managing our votes, which is our currency in this democracy, so we can get the outcomes in terms of public policies that we are paying for, We are owners of government, not victims of government, unless we sit back and let other people run the government against us. So for many people across the country, as we moved over this last 4 years, we heard people getting engaged, getting more involved. They wasn't caring about political affiliation. They seen the urgency of participation because white supremacists had so dominated the Republican Party, it left them no other choice than vote in record numbers in 2018, and then again in 2020, and then again during the runoff election in January in Georgia. Being strong, self-sufficient. Strong people don't need strong leaders because we're already strong.
Ella Baker is one of my spirit guides, I'd like to believe, and I believe that's true, President Johnson. Lisa, so I'm sure you heard similar things to Latasha and Derek, but our community isn't a monolith. So while you may have heard similar things, I'm sure you heard other things. Can you touch on what you feel like you heard and understood people wanted from elected officials?
Absolutely. Thank you for the question, Tiffany. But first, let me salute Latasha and Derek, and let me co-sign what they've already said and lift up the organizations that they're leading. Because one of the things that people are telling me in the Black community, but also women of every stripe, because, I had the privilege of leading the WNBA, and the players were deeply engaged in the civic process and the voting process during the fall and into the runoff, particularly in our home state of Georgia. What folks are telling us is that they feel disenfranchised. They don't feel seen and heard. So that's consistent with what Latasha and Derek are talking about. But what I also hear is equally aligned where people are saying, wait a minute, this is on us. We got this, to step forward, step up, and articulate what the disparities are, where we are disenfranchised and why, how the playing field should be level. All this notion of the laws that folks are trying to pass in these 46 states, there's like 350 of them that are in effect handling voter suppression. What I would say, and I am hearing said, is that there is recognition that we are standing up and standing out. We heard Dr. Bernice King talk about her father, and one of the things he said was, a man can't stand on your neck if you stand up. So what I recognize and what folks are telling me is that they're standing up, particularly young people, those that are 18 to 35 who perhaps didn't understand the urgency of now, looking at things that are coming at us over the transom. They're coming at all of us, not one of us. To Leader Abrams' point, white supremacy comes in all stripes and it's all across the country. We are not having, well, maybe we have the tip of the spear in the South, but we are not the only people who are seeing it or experiencing it. So what I'm hearing from the athletes that I work with and Black folks all across the country, even CEOs, is that we're going to stand up, we're going to push back, and we're not going to take it anymore. Period. Full stop.
I'm 100% with that. And that's why we're here tonight. We got 100 days to push this rock up and over the hill. So I love to hear that. I'm going to turn to you, Latasha. I have a question for you. Since the 2020 election, over 300 new voter suppression bills have been introduced around the country. What has led us as a democracy to this current crisis?
There's a couple of points, that I'll make quickly around it. The first thing is every time we literally look at the history of America. Anytime there has been an advancement, Black progress in this country, there has been a white backlash. We can go from Reconstruction. We can go from the 20s with the rise of the lynchings. We can go to what happened that led to the Civil Rights Movement and on and on and on. And so part of what we have to really recognize is this ain't just about voting. This is about structural racism. And this is about the protection, the creation around literally every system in this country has been designed in such a way to protect white interests, right? And so part of not wanting people to participate in the process isn't just about a party grab. It's not just about the Republicans. This is literally about the Republicans leading a charge to say that we're going to literally, as they said in the past, take the country back, i.e. meaning we're going to create a circumstance that white men with wealth, and where does that remind us of, right, will actually maintain and have all disproportionate the power in this country. And so part of, even when we're talking about the voter suppression bills that we're seeing come across all, it's a punitive measure. It is to punish Black folks and people of color from coming out in record and historic numbers. But it's also literally to actually make people feel dejected and to make people feel powerless and make people not engage in the process. The thinking is if we actually continue to do this and beat folks down, which is the way that oppression works, that folks will disengage in the process. You know, on the contrary, one of the things I think white supremacists continue to do where one of their biggest mistakes is they continuously underestimate Black folks, the power, you know, of and the passion of Black people. And so fundamentally what we saw is in 2018, you know, we saw voter suppression firsthand, right? Georgia was ground zero for voter suppression. So what happened? What was our response to it? In 2020, it wasn't like the voter suppression stopped. It continued. Matter of fact, in many ways, it intensified on top of actually having COVID-19. But what did we do? Literally, movement did this. That fundamentally what we did, we came out even harder. And so when we're looking at the runoff election, the runoff was specifically designed to march for Black voters, one, for the Negro vote, to actually have a drop off. What did we do? We came out in larger numbers. My point is, there is a response. What we're hearing, folks are tired. And the communities that we're talking to, that people are centering, they're not waiting for the best candidate or the best political party to actually come and save them, that people are having a sense, as Derek talked about earlier, of self-determination, that literally we are radically reimagining every single system in this country, and we're going to make sure that we have our agency is respected and our voice is heard.
Absolutely, positively. We cannot stop that fight. Our voices are why we're here tonight, right? Because we know, turning to you, Lisa, that if these laws that are directly assaulted and attacks on our communities are passed, then we won't be able to do the kind of grass tops to grassroots organizing that you were talking about. So can you touch on that a little bit? I know you organized some really awesome folks to join the Joy to the Polls and different actions in the 2020 and the runoff. So what happens if they get their way? How does that stop or interfere with our work?
Well, you know, it stifles our work in many ways. And the athletes that I was working with last summer, these were women from the W who stood up and stood out and went on national TV and said, we got to vote, we got to support Georgia. Many of them did not live in Georgia, but they understood what was happening conceptually and at a practical level. To Latasha's point, in Georgia, we were ground zero. We are ground zero because SB 202 passed here. So it is law here. And so what we have to do is not only marshal the resources that we saw with individual players or teams or folks in the sports industry, we got to get corporations to step up and speak up and be honest about what's actually happening. That's number one, because we understand this is happening in Florida, Georgia, Texas, Arizona, Michigan. Like, what the hell? Like, we have got to step in the gap. So the corporations, number one, got to acknowledge it. Every leader, be they business, political, or civic, has got to open their mouth. You cannot sit on the sidelines and say, I'll do something next time. There's the urgent moment is right here, right now. So that's number one. Number two, the money that is earmarked for all the campaign contributions that they've been given, why are they going to fund people, or why should they fund people who are threatening democracy? That's a threat to their company. So let's call it an economic threat, not just a democratic threat, but it is. If we need to appeal to what makes their companies run, Tiffany, I'm okay with that. So rather than spend that money on folks who are not seeing us and not representing us, give that money to the poor or the elderly or students or those who are isolated that will need IDs to vote in the 2022 elections. That's the second thing they can do. The money's already earmarked, so let's redeploy it. And then number 3, Leader Abrams talked about HR 1 and S1 for the People Act. Okay, come on. That's a standard, a federal standard that will put all this stuff at the state level to rest, right? That's number 1. So whether it's expanding early voting or same-day voting, a national registry for voter registration, things that none of us can really argue with except those who want to centralize power and eliminate the rest of us. So if corporations would step up and support For the People Act and demand that it be passed along with the John Lewis Voting Advancement Act, which clearly will reinstate pre-clearance. And for those who are not clear on what pre-clearance is, that means whenever a state wants to change voting instructions and voting laws and voting rules, it has to be cleared by the Department of Justice. Because half of this stuff, people are trying to not only stay in power, but have an even broader power grab. Tiffany, we know in Georgia, for example, they removed the Secretary of State as part of the process, and now they can appoint a partisan person. What are you talking about right now? Okay, and that is law in Georgia, and they're trying to do the same thing, Florida, Texas, you name it. So corporations have a big part to play. The players from the WNBA were bold as brass, and I'm mighty proud of those women. Back to Dr. Bernice A. King, who said women are leading the charge. No disrespect to our male counterparts, but we are inviting everybody into this arena, starting with the corporations, because they've got big blocks of people that they control and that they inform and can help push this change that we are talking about for more equitable treatment of all people, Black and brown communities first among equals.
Yes, thank you for that, Lisa, because that's part of our goal over these next 100 days. We're going to let folks know exactly who they can target, exactly who we need to be talking to. It's more than a black square, right? It's time to put your money and your resources where your mouth is and demonstrate to us that our Black lives matter. So thank you for that and for setting us up for the question I'm about to toss to President Johnson, to actually get into those 2 pieces of legislation and help folks understand. Can we talk about the federal legislation that can at least mitigate and stop some harm that these state level bills will cause? First, For the People Act, S1, what would the bill do and how will it help make voting more accessible and combat some of the things that Lisa was just highlighting?
A great question. So if we are able to move this piece of legislation, it will address in all 50 states the issue of voter registration, that anyone who applies for any state services, whether it's driver's license or you name it, you automatically register to vote. Voter registration within itself is vote suppression. It would allow for up to 15 days of early voting. It would open up the opportunity for mail-in voting. It will create spaces where it's easier to vote. That's really important. In this democracy, we celebrate if over 60% of the population actually vote. However, in other countries, Australia, 96% of the population vote. Canada, just to the north of us, 92% of the population votes. Germany, 93% of the population vote. We don't have a true representative democracy when you have policymakers trying to pick their voters as opposed to voters picking their policymakers, and voters pick their policymakers when you open up access to voting. So it's really important for us to move this piece of legislation because it makes it easier for more people to vote so we can get to a place of representative democracy. Now, if you add that on top of the reauthorization of the Voting Rights Act, Section 5, which is so important, particularly to Southern jurisdictions. It was created out of the 1965 Voting Rights Act. It was a test that it would apply to jurisdictions, whether states in whole or jurisdictions within states, who've had a demonstrated history of seeking to suppress the Black vote. And when the court struck it down, it opened the door to states like Georgia or South Carolina or Alabama to go backwards in access to voting in terms of the voting laws. And so we are living in the reality of those laws being put in place, causing Stacey Abrams not to be named the next governor in 2018 because she won that election, but for the thievery that took place. It created a different dynamic in a state like South Carolina, where had some of the restrictive measures not been put in place, it would have created a more competitive environment for someone like a Jamie Harrison, or in a state like Alabama, and when the countless local elections that were either too close to call or went in the wrong direction because it didn't truly reflect the will of all the voters, not just the ones who figured out how to navigate their ballot, but the ones who were denied access to the ballot. So when you look at HR 1 and then you add in HR 4, where you have a pre-clearance requirement, where the changes in election laws, policies, or practices would not be allowed unless there's a review and it's clear by the Justice Department to ensure those changes would not have a disparate impact on targeted communities.
Thank you, President Johnson. Thank you for such a clear and sharp explanation of that. Again, that's what we're going to spend our whole summer doing, is making sure folks realize and remember, right, that we have living, breathing examples of what happens when we don't have these laws. We've seen elections stolen from us. We've seen the sweeping change that's happening right under our noses. And this is why we have to continue to fight. And so, Latasha, I'll ask you, we have the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act, HR 4, that President Johnson just mentioned, named after the late civil rights icon who we know was beaten within seconds of his life trying to overcome this fight decades ago, and it just breaks my heart that we're here again. But can you give a little bit more context to our folks and let them know what would HR 4 do to actually fix the gutted 1965 Voting Rights Act?
So, I want to talk about both HR 4 and the For the People Act, because I think we need to see them as companion bills, that we need both, because what For the People Act does is it actually addresses some of the things that I think has really undermined politics in the country. And so when we're looking at For the People Act, we're looking at the expanding of early voting. We're lessening the voter ID requirements, that states will actually be able to do automatic voter registration. All states will have early voting. There are states currently right now that don't offer in-person early voting, but it also deals with dark money. It also deals with gerrymandering, which has been weaponized against Black communities with surgical precision, according to the courts in North Carolina. And it also deals with as we're talking about a redistricting and in the gerrymandering process, it also literally deals with how we kind of move forward in terms of literally oversight around our elections. In addition to that, when we're talking about the John Lewis Advancement Act, what many of us don't realize, it sets up a new formula. That the formula, as Derek had talked about earlier, that there was a formula that was set up that certain states, that the Supreme Court essentially in this last ruling in 2013, when they got it, said, no, we don't need that. Just fix it, but it's fine. We don't need that anymore. Right? There's a preponderance of evidence now. Everything the voter advocates said would happen, not only has it happened, but it's actually intensified to the worst of our imaginations. And so it sets up a different formula that is actually not just directed at states in the South, but there's been egregious actors to this process also literally in other states, and states all around the country, in the West, in the East, and in the North, and the Midwest. And so it sets up a different kind of formula that does bring a different level of parity, I think, in terms of some of the states and across the country. It also expands voting rights to Native Americans. Most people don't know that in the Voting Rights Act, it did not explicitly include the Native American communities, right? Many of them have also been experiencing voter suppression in the form of their laws have been set up where in some of the states, when you look out west, where many Native American communities and reservations, they use post office boxes. And so there's legislation that was set up that would not allow post office boxes, so that would actually discriminate against them, right? And so what we're looking at, I think the thing that is most powerful is that it restores Section 5, basically the pre-clearance clause. If that act, for people to understand, if I boil it down, we need people to understand that if the John Lewis Voter Advancement Act was in place, the Georgia bill never would have been able to pass. that many of the bills that we're talking around in the states that are going on right now in all 47 states, they would not actually be able to cut the mustard, right? That there would be some more oversight around the elections and these election laws that are being passed at a rapid amount of time within the country. And so I think it's really important for people to know that we have to actually push forward, that even in the 1965 Voting Rights Act, just to put it in context, that was never the end all and be all. That was a compromise in itself. Even the Voting Rights Act of 1965 had to be reauthorized every 25 years. We need something, not even we stop just with those things. Right now in the immediate, we need the John Lewis Act and the For the People Act. But I also believe that we need a Department of Democracy. I also think that we need to make sure that voting rights is actually included in the Constitution. I also think that we need different vehicles and tools that are used as well, as we're talking about ranked choice voting and other ways that we can actually have more representative and a more reflective democracy.
I don't know if I could support a Department of Democracy if you're not in charge, Latasha. Thank you so much for that. And also thank you for reminding us that we absolutely have to see them as going hand in hand. And that's something we have to remind our folks. One really isn't going to do us that much good if we don't have the other. And so remember, folks, we need the John Lewis Voting Advancement Act and we need the For the People Act. So President Johnson is going to stay on with us. But before you and Lisa depart, I'd like to ask each of you very quickly, give us one thing that you want to make sure that our audience is doing this summer to make sure we get this rock over the hill. Lisa, I'll start with you. One thing that you want everybody in the audience to make sure they do.
I want everybody in the audience to persevere, Tiffany, because to the point of all the things that have happened in 2020 and 2021, starting with the pandemic, but followed up by all of this adverse action that we are seeing, that is clear evidence that we are making incremental progress, which is not to be understated. So we've got to keep our eye on the prize. The two pieces of legislation that Latasha so eloquently spoke about and Derek is speaking about, we have to stay focused on what's most important. And that's ensuring that those two pieces of legislation, at least in the short term, help solve the acute issue. So persevere, persevere, persevere.
Well, the first thing I did right was the day I started to fight. Keep your eyes on the prize and hold on, hold on. Just as Sister Lisa just said, we got to keep our eyes on the prize. We've got to organize. Organized power is realized power. And when we're looking at with mighty trees, it doesn't matter how great their branches are. If they are not rooted, if they're not grounded and their roots are not strong, they will not survive. They will not live. And so it's important for us to support grassroots organizations, grassroots groups that are doing the work. If you send a check for $5, $20, $100, but support the work that's going on the ground. That's where the real work happens. That's where the real transformational change happens.
Let the church say amen.
Amen. And we got a song from Latasha Brown. Y'all can check Latasha out on Spotify too.
I ain't mad at her. I'm loving it. I'm loving it. That's part of the movement is the music. Right?
Amen. Lisa, Latasha, we are blessed and so grateful to have you with us tonight. I promise you, the Frontline is just honored that you came through. Thanks for your panel. Have a wonderful evening.
God bless.
God bless.
Whew, folks. So we've got some marching orders. And right now, we're going to pause for just one moment to allow our amazing ASL interpreters, Matt and Oral, to switch out. We're so grateful for this work to make this event more accessible. So just hold tight for us. Hope everybody's having a good time. Are we ready to go? We're ready, and we're back now with Oral. Hey, Oral. So voting rights are critical, but voting is not the only way we exercise power or make change. Throughout history, grassroots social movements, specifically protesting and taking to the streets, has been one of the most effective ways that we've gotten to change. It's not an accident that along with voter suppression laws, Republicans are also pushing over 45 bills across America to criminalize protests and protesters. It's another piece of their effort to keep Black folks disenfranchised, and we're very clear on that. As I said, President Johnson was gracious enough to stick around with us, and now we're going to be joined by two more outstanding movement leaders, Cliff Albright and Valencia Gruter. Valencia Gunder. Valencia Gunder, or is most recognized her V, which is why I said Gunder because I usually just call her V, is an enthusiastic, self-motivated, and driven community organizer. A Miami native, Valencia is the founder and co-director of Smile Trust, Inc., co-founder of the Black Collective and national organizing lead of the Red, Black, and Green New Deal for the Movement for Black Lives, and advocate in residence at Florida Memorial University. Valencia assists many community-based organizations with a variety of strategies around Florida to ensure that the community feels the impact in a positive way. Cliff Albright is a 2020 Soros Equality Fellow and co-founder of Black Voters Matter Fund, which builds community and organizational capacity related to Black voting power. In 2018, Cliff and the Black Voters Matter team traveled throughout 7 southern states in the blackest bus in America. I love that. Energizing voters and exposing voter suppression. Cliff hosts a weekly radio show in Atlanta and has served as an instructor of African American studies in several universities. Welcome, 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 Cliff. Thank you for being here. Welcome, V. How are you today? Good to see you, sis. I'm going to jump right into discussion questions because we're almost like right on time, which never happens. We heard from tonight from Dr. Bernice King, which was still floating, about the historical significance of protest and its connection to protecting our vote. How does protest fit into this latest iteration on the fight for Black liberation, President Johnson?
Black liberation is our total being. As we talk about democracy, that's just a vehicle to get to self-determination. And self-determination should always be the direction we go in. We're not a monolith as a community. We have much diversity, but through our uniqueness, we all should be driving towards our ability to be self-determined. In that is liberation. In that is an opportunity to allow our voices to be heard through this democracy. This democracy is something that we have invested in. This democracy is something we have set up and never been compensated for. This democracy is what we own. And to have Black liberation is to be able to exist within it, however we decide within the confines of it, or to be able to remove ourselves from it. If we so choose, that is about being self-determined. And being self-determined is liberation. It is Black liberation.
I couldn't agree with you more, President Johnson. And so, Cliff, let me ask you, if that's part of our self-determination and that's part of our liberation fight, then what are the consequences of a society that doesn't allow us to do that?
Yeah, I mean, quite simply, a society that does not allow us to do that, can no longer exist. And I don't mean that like figuratively or metaphorically. You can't sustain a society where you do not allow protest. Or you can't even create a society. Think about it. This nation was founded on protests, right? You got some people that climb on a boat and spill some tea out into the Boston Harbor. You want to call them patriots and freedom fighters, but you get a little graffiti that says BLM on a building and you want to act like they're terrorists and criminals, right? And so you can't sustain a situation where you don't allow protests, especially when you combine it with the last discussion that we just had. If you're going to take away the right to vote, right, the traditional way, the acceptable and the respectable way that we can influence politics and control our lives, if you're going to limit that through all these bills that are being passed, through the ongoing gerrymandering and everything else that takes place, and then you're also going to take away the right to protest, then what are people left with? Right? Where do you expect people to go? A society that does not allow for that kind of protest, especially by those who are marginalized, like I say, can no longer exist. Power concedes nothing without a demand. A demand is going to be made one way or another. If you're going to limit the ways that can happen, then that doesn't lead you to a good situation. The other quick thing I just wanted to add, just in terms of like where this protest fits in, there's been a lot said about how the protest fits in the sense of, we know that without the historic summer of protest, we might not have gotten to the verdict that we got last week. Heck, we might not have even gotten to a trial in the Chauvin case, right? And so we know the role that the historic summer protests played in that. But there's another piece to it. It's not just where the protest fits into our current situation. It's where it fits into our ongoing story, our ongoing narrative, right? This ongoing battle that we have. Because at the end of the day, that summer of protest and the protest that we're doing right now against these voter suppression bills and these protest bills, it's part of the ongoing narrative that lets future generations know that we did not accept the oppression that was coming our way. The same way that people will try to tell you a lie about enslaved Africans, and those lies are betrayed by the fact that you had routine work slowdowns or routine runaways, or that you had Sister Harriet, or that you had Brother Nat and Brother Denmark. You can't tell that lie because our protest speaks to the truth. You can't tell the lie that we were happy with Jim Crow, because the protest, you had Dr. King on earlier, the protest of her father, her mother, and all the others in that generation speaks to the truth. You will not be able to, in some future generation, tell the lie that Black folks sat back and allowed ourselves, our families, our children to be murdered, and that we did not resist, right? Because the summer of protests and all the other protests that we do, and all of the Black Lives Matter and everything else, speaks to the truth. So it's not just where it sits in our present situation, what it means to future generations.
And Tiffany, let me add one thing. Let's understand, protest is a tool. It is not the outcome. It is a tool when our voice is not being heard. It is a tool when we're unable to exercise our self-determination through our voice in this system. It is not the outcome. We must always recognize it for the tool it is, and not protest within itself is not the outcome.
That's absolutely right. And as you put it in that historical context, Cliff, I'm going to turn it over to Valencia, who's actually living the horrors of this right now in Florida. And we're sending lots of love to you, because we know that this could literally mean the difference between you being able to execute program and moving community the way that our folks want to. So I'd love to hear you talk about the effects of that right now in Florida, anti-protest bills popping up, and particularly how this feels on the ground right now.
Yeah, well, one, thank you for calling it the anti-protest bill. The government is trying to push this narrative of an anti-riot bill. This is anti-protest. The definition of the riot is 9 or more folks gathered together. That could be a birthday party or backyard barbecue, and it gives the officer the discretion to call it a riot. And it's sickening. It's so many different parts of the legislation. The anti-protest piece of it is disheartening, right? It is an attempt to scare people into not acting, to not using the tool of protest to bring awareness to issues that we're having, and also to hold our local and state government accountable for all of the mistreatment that they do to our communities. But on top of that, this bill was loaded with more stuff, right? One, it preempted all local law enforcement budgets to be controlled by our state, right? So that was a direct attack on our call to action to defund the police, right? As taxpayers, we have a right to weigh in on our budget process. It took away that right, right? And then it also carries a mandatory minimum with a 5th-degree felony, with a mandatory minimum to serve 6 months. And if you are a leader of the movement, you get charged under the RICO Act, and you carry a mandatory minimum of 15 years. Now, what does that look like for a Valencia gunner, right? That looks like if I go out to protest and a police officer says that I was inciting a riot, and I am a leader, and I just got my rights back to vote in 2018 under Amendment 4 because I'm a returning citizen, a 2-time felon, right? That means I'll have a 3rd strike with a mandatory minimum of 15 years, and I may never see the outside of a cage ever again for me trying to hold the government accountable for the harm that they do to community, right? That is the reality of it all. And what's even worse is that our government in the extreme right it's controlling the narrative here in the state of Florida with our residents. People are like, yeah, we don't agree with burning buildings. I don't know when we got to this place where we value buildings and infrastructures and roads over somebody's life. And it's been a headache here trying to combat our governor. He's out of control. He is a racist. He's a fascist. And we're dealing with it firsthand. But we haven't given up, Tiffany. We haven't given up. We've been canvassing, educating our communities, doing outreach. And of course, we're going to see them in the courts.
I know that's right. And so right now, as we close out this panel, Valencia, thank you for sharing. That was a very powerful firsthand account. People need to know what's happening in Florida. What can we do? What can this community do to support folks in Florida right now? What is your call to action?
Yes, if you go to theblackcollective.org, that's the BLKcollective.org, and you can sign on to our letter against it. We're working in coalition with over 24 organizations across the state to stand up against this. And honestly, we are asking people to help flank us as we will maybe need to escalate soon. And for our national folks and our folks from our neighboring communities to be able to come in and support us if we need so.
That's very loud and clear, Valencia, and that's why we're happy to be a partner with you over these next 100 days and beyond, because we can't allow things like this to happen to our folks. So President Johnson, as we prepare to close out, what do our folks need to be doing right now to help protect this right to protest and continue this fight for Black liberation? What's one thing?
Well, we have a new Justice Department. We need them to start filing lawsuits against jurisdictions who try to impede one's First Amendment right. What we witnessed last summer is peaceful protest. That is guaranteed under the First Amendment, the right to assemble and the right to freedom of speech. The Justice Department must step in so we're not playing whack-a-mole and knock down in the court all of these illegal laws that have been adopted by jurisdictions across the country.
We're just racking up things, more and more things for us to do and more people to call on over the course of this summer. But I agree wholeheartedly with that. Cliff, you guys gave out water. You guys went to churches and fried fish and brought a lot of joy to folks while also educating them and encouraging them to get out and vote. That could be against the law soon. What do folks need to do to make sure that Black voters matter can keep going?
Well, I think the first thing we need to do is just get informed, through sessions like this, virtual town halls, whatever it takes, door knocking, phone calls, text banking, all of that. And to do that, to get engaged in that, you need to get involved in an organization. I don't care what the organization is. I don't care if it's Black Voters Matter, NAACP, Moving for Black Lives. Get involved in something, right? Working Families Party, right? Get involved in something. But we have to get educated about what this is and how do we fight against it. One quick thing I wanted to mention about the nature of some of these bills, because again, it's not just Florida, it's Indiana, it's Iowa, it's Oklahoma. And if you look at these bills, not only does it have the criminalization pieces to it, right, that V talked about, but look at some of the other consequences that come with these things. In some of these states, you can lose access to student loans, you can lose access to housing, you can lose access to you can not be allowed to work for the state, which includes holding elected office. So the very people that we have in our communities that are being activists would then be barred from being able to be an elected official, right? And so when you look at these different consequences, it lets you know what their real intentions are. It's not just about squashing the protest, it's about taking away all the other benefits and rights that come with us being a part of this society. So we just got to learn more about all these bills. We got to get involved, help spread the word, join an organization. And at the end of the day, it's like we always say, can't stop, won't stop.
Can't stop, won't stop. That's the spirit. And that's what makes me so excited about this formation that we've put together for this period of time, because we will be pushing and we will keep going. President Johnson, Cliff, V, thank you so much for being here tonight. We are honored to be in coalition with you. We are honored that you took this time on your Friday night. You could have been anywhere in the world and you chose to come here and share this information with our community. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Wow. What an awesome panel. So I think that we are about to move in to a video. Maybe not a video. I thought we are going to play a video. Okay, guys. Oh, we're not going to play a video. Sorry. I'm going to keep talking. We're going to move into a conversation with two people who I could not be prouder to call my actual comrades, my leaders, and my friends. And we're going to talk about the topic of we can't breathe. Police violence is literally killing Black people every day. And we have to uproot the systems of policing, criminalization, and white supremacy that killed Andrew Brown, Ma'Khia Bryant, Dante Wright, George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Philando Castile, Trayvon Martin, Eric Garner, Mike Brown, and far, far, far too many more to mention. We must divest our taxpayer dollars from brutal and discriminatory policing and invest in a new vision of public safety. We must invest in the solutions we know our communities want and our communities need. Affordable housing, youth and family services, healing, healthcare, world-class education, and employment opportunities, regardless of your zip code. Now more than ever, we have to be bold and we have to find the courage to build a world free of white supremacy and state violence. So tonight, for the last panel, you are in for a treat because we are joined by two of the baddest organizers alive right now, Mr. Maurice Mitchell and Miss Ashley Woodard Henderson. Maurice Mo Mitchell, a nationally recognized social movement strategist, a visionary leader in the movement for Black lives, a community organizer for racial, social, and economic justice, seeing the need for an anchor organization to provide strategic support to the movement for Black lives activists across the country. Maurice co-founded and managed Blackbird in 2018. Maurice became the national director of Working Families Party and is applying his passion and experience to make WFP the political home for a multiracial working class movement. And there's nothing Maurice Mitchell can't do, if you were wondering. Ashley Woodard Henderson is my friend. Ashley is, and you put this word in here, Afrolation. Ashley is an Afrolation, which means she is Black and she is from Appalachia. She is a woman from a working class family born and raised in Southeast Tennessee. She is the first Black woman and co-executive director of the Highlander Research and Education Center. She serves on multiple leadership teams across the movement for Black lives and is an active leader in the Frontline. She is a longtime activist. I think she was born an activist in movements fighting for workers, for reproductive justice, LGBTQIA plus folks, for the environment, for justice. She loves Black people, and God, I'm just so happy to be here with y'all. Hello.
Hello.
Hello, it's so good to be here. She loves Black people and Black people love her back. as we do you, Tiffany.
Mo, thank you. It's so good to be with you, friends. So I'm gonna jump right in it. We're the last panel. Thanks for bringing your love and your energy. So I'm gonna start with you, Ash. We talk about this all the time. Let's answer the question for the people. What does it mean to defund the police, and why is it so important?
Yeah, so let's start at the top, right? When we say defund the police, when we talk about abolition, abolishing the police actually doesn't abolish community safety, right? In fact, the demand came from the streets because our people knew well and good enough that if we divest resources from a system that is working exactly as it was designed to disenfranchise and harm Black communities, to treat us like chattel, right? To protect private property and the consolidation of wealth and power of an elite few over the priorities of our communities being whole and healthy and equitable and sustainable. If we took those resources from this system and we invested them in community-led solutions, then we would actually see the community safety that would prevent the need to have police in our neighborhoods in the first place, right? So let's break it down. When I'm talking about money, how much money are we talking about, right? Well, United States taxpayers are asked to foot a costly bill to maintain this system of policing that we've inherited. The US spends $348 billion with a B annually on federal, state, and local spending on policing, on courts, on corrections, the FBI, the Department of Homeland Security. That is more than the mass transit and rail budget, affordable housing and urban development, fire services, and libraries combined. The U.S. taxpayer in this country is spending $955 million a day. $955 million a day on ineffective policing services. So when we talk about what it means to defund the police, what we're saying is let's take that money and actually use it for alternatives to police services. There's so many more effective methods of providing safety and security to our communities that reject the murder and brutalization of Black people. When we're talking about defunding the police, we're talking about decriminalization, right? We can repeal outdated laws and bylaws in our communities that don't serve us by prioritizing public health and social support. We can eliminate our reliance on surveillance and enforcement, right? And last but certainly not least, when we talk about defunding the police, we're talking about taking out the money that supports the militarized weaponry that they're using in our communities, right? It's about disarmament and demilitarization and about pulling back some of this invasive technology that is being used to hamper our ability to build movements, to build self-determining democracy. What we know is that SWAT teams don't increase safety, right? And if I imagine asking you, tell me a time about when you felt safe, that you wouldn't tell me a story about being in a police car or living next door to a prison. What you would tell me is that you felt like you were in a community of people that loved you and cared for you and were fully resourced to meet your every need. And that's what we're talking about when we say divest resources from policing, invest them in community solutions, and to defund the police.
$955 million a day.
A day. A day.
Did everybody hear that? $955 million a day. Now think about how different your community would look, regardless of where you live. If you had a fraction to the access of $955 million a day. This is why we said defund, and this is why we mean it, right?
That's right.
So Maurice, the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act was passed in the House of Representatives, but it stalled in the Senate. Can you please share your analysis of the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act? And more specifically, if this law had been in the books had already been on the books, do you think it would have saved George Floyd's life?
I appreciate that question, and rest in power, George Floyd, sending love to his family and community. And the bill that shares his name, unfortunately, if it was passed into law today, if it was passed into law last year before he was murdered, it would have not have interrupted that act. That is the reality. And I think it has everything to do with what Ashley just said. So there's things in the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. Let's do a little bit of a dive. It puts resources in place to train police officers, number one. There's resources for body cameras. It calls for a national registry so that we could register these police officers. Now, all of those activities, we already know. Body cameras. Well, we've already witnessed time and time again, police officers with body cameras affixed to them, recording, still killing us. A national registry. So that's an effort to register the quote unquote bad apple police. So that means that any of those bad apples would have had to have already hurt or killed a Black person to get on that registry, right? Training. We've put billions of dollars of training into police. The hard fact is you can't out-train yourself out of this situation that Black people are facing. And you can't affix body cameras on police and assume that the reason that they're committing these crimes against Black people is because they think there's no awareness. The reason they're committing crimes is because they understand that there's impunity, body camera or no body camera. Until we deal with the root cause, and the root cause is the interactions, the amount of interactions that Black people have with the police, then we're always going to get back at this solution, at this problem. The solution ultimately must be reducing the size, scope, and scale of the police, the powers of the police, so that Black people could have the space to be able to, like what Derek was saying, truly self-determine for ourselves how we want to live. And in that reduction, that could create space for investments in our community, like Ashley said. So the Justice and Policing Act does not do that, does not reduce the size, scale, and scope. In fact, it invests in the police. And what we've said from the very beginning is that the problem is the police. So you can't solve the problem by investing in the problem. You have to solve the problem by investing in the solution. The solution is community. And the Justice and Policing Act does not go there. We need something much more transformative, like the Breathe Act, which Ayanna Pressley and Rashida Tlaib introduced, that actually deals with a framework that is divesting from the things that we know that harm us and investing in the things that we know make us more safe.
What a setup for the Breathe Act, Maurice, because in speaking of Black liberation and the fact that Black folks have offered solutions in this moment, right? We're not, in the words of Maurice Mitchell, I'm not a problem admirer. I saw a problem and I worked together with a team of mostly Black women to come up with some legislation because we thought that we had some answers. So Ashley, how about you take a minute, because you two were on that team, to talk about the fact that we feel like we've offered a solution and our government has decided it wants to go another way.
Absolutely. And shout out to the Breathe Act team. You all have transformed my understanding of what could become possible when Black people across our areas of expertise come together to write these legislative love letters to the streets. So I want to build on what Mo is saying to give you some comparison to why I think Breathe Act is actually the better deal. So you already heard Mo talk about how it gives more money to cops, right? It, in fact, invests $1 billion into policing. This is the antithesis to divesting from police and investing in sustainable, healthy, and equitable communities. It prioritizes reformist strategies that have already been proven ineffective, right? It's like trying to put 1990s platinum Band-Aids on the gaping wound that is this 21st century problem of policing in Black communities. It's reliant on law enforcement to fix policing instead of entrusting communities that are actually the closest to the issue. And if all of that wasn't bad enough, it relies on the Attorney General as the overseer of the bill. If that's not policing police, I don't know what is, right? So that's what the Justice and Policing Act. But let's compare it to what the Movement for Black Lives offers with the Breathe Act. The Breathe Act gives you an opportunity to imagine what it would be like to send your babies to schools that, instead of having cops at the door, had fully trained counselors and restorative justice programs where our babies could be safe and their needs could be met. It could offer you an opportunity to live in a community where there's easy access to trained trauma-informed interventionists who can be called on in domestic violence situations and who are equipped to facilitate long-term safety, healing, and prevention, right? Imagine what it would be to pick up the phone and call a 911 operator dispatch firm that could send unarmed mental health experts to your neighborhood instead of cops in situations involving behavioral health crises. And callers would be allowed to request responders that connect to the gender identity of the person in crisis, right? The Breathe Act offers this and more. Essentially, it does 4 things. The Breathe Act would allow for the divestment of federal grants and agencies that are primarily funding law enforcement in the carceral state. And then, in addition, it builds a new approach to community safety. So not only does it divest resources from policing and then invest those resources into community-led solutions, it also incentivizes by creating new avenues for even more resources to go to support community solutions that have been demanded for decades and decades and decades in Black communities. And then, after all of that investment, it also then takes a further step to actually hold our elected officials accountable to the demands that have been made in the streets. So if you want more information for the Breathe Act, you can go to breatheact.org. You can read the full bill. I do want to shout out all of the incredible folks on the Hill who have been saying they will champion our bill. But what makes that possible is you. You all have made the Breathe Act possible. Your protests in the streets last year, your organizing and base building work over the last decade, you all actually getting out there in a time of great crisis and voting in elected officials that you then held accountable and kept the pressure on, you are the reason that the Breathe Act is actually possible. And so when people tell you that justice in policing is an alternative that we need, I would argue, and I would hope that you would ask questions around recognizing that there is no such thing as justice in policing. It's an oxymoron. The two things don't exist. And the Breathe Act actually offers us another opportunity to actually see a big, bold transformation of how policing happens in this country.
Thank you, Ash. That you always talk about the Breathe Act so much better than I do. You're so wonderful that it just rolls off your tongue. She's like, let me just tell you about the Breathe Act. You got 2 minutes. Thank you. So for our last question, I'm going to turn it over to our friend, Maurice Mitchell, and ask you, Mo, give the folks at home who've been rocking with us now for 1 hour and 39 minutes, why did we have to do this right now? We mobilized, we organized, we brought joy to the polls, we delivered Georgia, we delivered the houses, and we still don't have what we need. So why keep it 100? Why right now? And what do we want folks to do?
Look, it's as clear as this. The election of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris was only a door, not the destination. This is something that we said before the election in November. This is something that we reiterated in Georgia when folks went out and voted and flipped the Senate. What does that mean? That means that we voted, we organized, we protested so that we could have an opening, so that we could have an opportunity in order to create transformative change. That destination is not held by any one particular elected official. That destination and the folks who are going to lead us to that destination is us. If folks remember, during the height of COVID-19, when we were under the Trump regime and the federal government had forgotten us, what did we do? We engaged in mutual aid. And we, as everyday folks in community, we supported one another. We supported us. That's true in our politics more than ever before. So the reason we need to, after this first 100 days, keep it 100 and apply more pressure for the next 100 days is that it is our duty. We've made so many sacrifices and we've opened the door for progress. And we can't let up now. In 2009, when Barack Obama built an electoral movement and he rode that electoral movement to the White House, that electoral movement was demobilized. By August of 2009, the far right movement that we now know as the Tea Party movement, they changed our politics for the worse, for working people, for Black folks. And we're still living in the wake of that. So we need to learn the lessons from 2009. Now we have another opportunity where Democrats have trifecta control of the government. And we need to demand that they do everything in their power with their 50 votes in the Senate and the majority in Congress in order to secure victories for working people and to secure victories for Black folks and to secure our democracy. It is an imperative. And you heard everybody here speak about the crisis in our democracy. There are intersecting crises, the crisis of our democracy. There's a crisis that we're experiencing as it relates to justice for Black folks on the streets. There's a crisis that we're trying to unravel that is a health crisis because of COVID-19. And there's an economic crisis. So our people can't wait. Our people can't wait and basically just wait and see what elected officials in the Biden administration have to do as it relates to this opening. We need to be participants in it. We can't be bystanders. And so that's why we're here, in order to ensure that we make that happen, that we seize our victory. And, the last thing I'll say is that Biden has said that he wants to have a FDR style approach to governance. Well, there's this famous conversation that took place where FDR was with labor leaders, where he said, I agree with you, now make me do it. That make me do it part, that's on us, right? We don't just elect people and then go home. We need to make them do it. And that's why we're here.
It's to make me do it for me. Absolutely, Maurice. I couldn't have framed it up. I knew you were the person to make folks understand it is up to us. We're halfway there. We're maybe a quarter of the way there. We have so much more road to cover, but we're flanked and supported and led by such brilliant and beautiful people like yourself, like Leader Abrams, like Dr. King, like Lisa. And I'm just so grateful to have you here tonight, friends. I cannot say thank you enough for your tireless work behind and in front of the scenes to get us to that next level. I thank you on behalf of the Frontline. I thank you on behalf of the Keep It 100 Coalition partners. Have a wonderful night. I hope you get some dinner. Thank you, friends. So, friends, we're winding down. This is the end of our time together. And I just want to do a little recap with you, okay? So like Maurice said, Keeping 100 isn't just a call to action. It's a demand for accountability. We can acknowledge progress while pushing for more. We can walk and we can chew gum. Our very survival depends on it. Over the next 100 days, we will organize. We're going to mobilize our movements to ensure businesses step up and speak up, and that Congress answers to the people by passing the For the People Act and the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act, because remember what everybody said, we can't have one without the other. We demand the freedom to vote so we can have the freedom to live, period. So if you liked what you saw tonight and you want to learn more, please, I encourage you, save the date. On May 15th, there is a Keep It 100 teach-in from 1 to 5 p.m. Eastern. It will be far more interactive, and there will be several tracks. Moms Rising and the Frontline are co-hosting this virtual gathering where organizations like the Movement for Black Lives, Working Families Party, Democracy Initiative, and United We Dream are hosting tracks to get us all ready for the summer, where we'll all come together to protect our vote, preserve our right to protest, and fight against police violence. Follow the Frontline on social media for more updates, or text 100, the two words, 1 and the word 100, to 30403 to stay connected. And visit Keep It 100, KEEPIT, the number 100.us, keepit100.us throughout the summer as we take action together, and you can stay connected with us. Thank you, each and every one of you. Like I said to our panelists, you could have been anywhere in the world tonight and you chose to be here with us. And we thank you. We're looking forward to seeing you on the front lines. It's going to be a long, hot summer. See you soon, friends.